His days, a repetitive chase, circling the convoluted days, and along the urgency to finally escape. Vaguely knowing tomorrow rewinds the same intolerable cat and mouse game, he perseveres despite his crippling fears, moves forward, lowers his head and attempts to humbly understand why he's followed and consistently harassed by an overwhelmingly persistent clan. She feels damned, wishing time will simply stop, remotely chained and locked, imprisoned on the clandestine oppression of her own home. Traumatized and shocked, she feels it like raw rape on her skin, praying to God in forgiveness for her sins, while her violator penetrates her thoughts and whispers not to resist. She feels the guilt. He asks her who's gonna believe it as he chuckles at her fragility, and it's all for the sake of our trust in national security. The media in front to label her an unfortunate case of an insane conspiracist, lost in theory. In the pursuit of happiness, he was exploited in his youth, strove and flourished from exhaustion into a respected, educated man until they ultimately forced his hand and robbed him of his roots at the moment he blew up with rampage few bearing their doom while shooting an equally innocent few at FSU. A man of the book, with too many implications and denials from a corrupt government for him to further bother or look into having them reveal the truth. He knew they'd rather watch all he's worked for wither in a reputation of paranoia and ridicule. 24 bullets in his body testifying that he was pushed. Citizens, forceful fool, indoctrinated traits paired with short-sightedness and ignorance, oblivion with the hope of existing in a better world of innocence, blistering to the touch while burning like ice, staring too closely at the sun, an absurdity to the minds of those who'd rather not believe that their fellow citizens are game for hunts. The ugliness of reality, savage and blunt political stunts strategically done within an NSA surveillance state, disregarding of the malice of which we need to make an imperative to face. I'd be too if I was in your place, away from this just another human conflict filled with this brand of greed and hate called this just another Watergate, the CIA's projects for black budget science. Developed in the early 50s for the purpose of a mind's compliance, exploitation of the electromagnetic spectrum directly in tune with the dissident's defiance. Now implemented for the self-righteousness of a social engineer's desire. Capitoline Hill, the allegorical class and myth as gods and giants, tyrants, simply just another human in flesh, human extremism and deceit secretes of urine and sweat. With personal pathologies mingled with philosophies of what should be a population's adequate democracy, a plutocracy of who's ruling behind the stars and bars of the red, white, and blue, using its citizens like cattle, capital rush defining lunacy, despotism as diplomacy, in the guise of morality and suits. Our difficulty is having the belief from the people who find it hard to have understood, concluding that it's easier to say we're crazy than to see that what's really happening to us is true. Non-consensual human experimentation, masses subjected to sensory deception, what we hear and see subjected to indistinguishable oppression, sort of domestic terrorism with patience. And here we are, right where we should be tactically stationed, cohesively constrained to present-day political manipulation simply to introduce, against our will, the electromagnetic use for our bodies and minds invasion.